Pleased to have former senior advisor with the Trump and Bush administrations, Christian Whiten, with us, the senior fellow for the Center for the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, Behnam Ben Taleblu, and Republican strategist, attorney, and economist John Jordan. Gentlemen, we are going to have to obviously cut this short if the briefing begins, and I'm watching right now. It could be imminent, but let's try to squeeze in our 2-minute warning. The situation that Hegseth had to come out, and I'll start with you, Christian, to forcefully call out the media, to talk about the intel, and now the potential for a leaker and, serious concerns about them actually having to prosecute where this came from. Such a distraction for such an important mission in a time where the ceasefire really should be the main headline. Your take?
It's the deep state at work once again. This happened before with Iran and nuclear issues. In 2008, the Bush administration was considering striking Iran's nuclear program, and the intelligence bureaucracy issued a fake national intelligence estimate that said incorrectly that Iran had abandoned its nuclear program, and that, of course, was leaked. This is basically a question of who's the boss. Is it the president or is it the bureaucrats? The bureaucrats here don't like the fact that Donald Trump acted in concert with Israel to destroy Iran's nuclear program. That's what's happened. They don't like it. The media doesn't like it. But I think the public sees the reality.
Who's the boss? Who's the dad? Mark Rutte is saying he didn't call President Trump daddy, but we do know, we have a clip of what he said there. When it comes to the dominance on the world stage, we've seen the Ayatollah Behnam pretty active on social media, the bluster there, and some questions about the destruction. And do you think that there's a possibility they moved any of the enriched uranium? What do you make of those reports here?
Well, there's a chance, given some of the satellite imagery that was recently reported, that there were white vans in and around Fordo, in and around that fuel enrichment plant before the U.S. dropped the massive ordnance penetrator on that enrichment plant, as well as on 2 other sites. We don't know if anything was disassembled or taken off, but even just recently, you had the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency pour a little bit of cold water on that, at least when it came to the machines that actually spin the uranium, those centrifuges that simply by knowing enough about what we know about the
all right,
the massive
sorry, got to cut this short. Guys, I got to jump in and take everyone to the White House press briefing. Sorry. All right, there you have it. Briefing has concluded. I want to bring back in our expert panel to break down some of the news we just heard coming out of the White House. John Jordan, former naval intelligence officer, Republican strategist and economist, and also Behnam Ben Taleblu, who is the senior fellow for the Center for the Foundation of Defense Democracies. Behnam, I'm going to start with you because I did abruptly cut you off as we had to get to the White House that had just started. So they're saying, according to the intelligence, that the uranium that was enriched has not been moved. But again, a really strong message coming out. Leaks will not be tolerated. And the CNN reporter, she actually, brought receipts here on what her narrative is. How important do you think that is to the story now moving forward? Because it still will be a story as more assessments come in and intel comes in.
It's critical to the story, but it's also critical to the policy. And the policy is that there have been 5 different U.S. presidents since the end of the Cold War saying the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran will not be permitted to develop a nuclear weapon. But ultimately, only one of them, President Donald Trump in his second term, was willing to pull that trigger. So in order to have the deterrent effects of that cascade around the Iranian system and really cement itself, the Iranians are going to have to know that A, U.S. military power is overwhelming and effective, and B, there's a willingness and a resolve to potentially scale up those operations over time if the Iranians cheat. Now, it just seemed like, unfortunately, sometimes you had elements of the U.S. press or sometimes rogue elements or leaking elements of the intelligence community that wanted to undermine that narrative, knowingly or unknowingly, bolstering the adversary. I mean, the DIA report may have been overshadowed by the better news coming out of the CIA and the better even news coming out of the International Atomic Energy Agency, just talking about the physics of the destruction of the Fordo fuel enrichment plant. That means the centrifuges there wouldn't likely survive. But unfortunately, in Iran and in the Iranian government media, the DIA report continues to be a human shield, allowing them to do more than save face, but to really pick apart different elements of America. So this is a problem that we're going to be facing for a long term if the press or other elements of the national security elite choose to undermine really the efficacy of American weapons and American deterrence here.